Morning Glory, America. It's Hugh, Hewitt. One of my very favorite Democrats is Chris Coons, senator from Delaware. I forgive him his Yale Law School roots because he once campaigned for Ronald Reagan. But there are very few other things that I can forgive. But once Yale Law School is one of them if you campaign for Reagan. Senator, welcome. It's good to have you back.
Thanks, Hugh. Good to be on with you.
I got to start with the dismaying descent of our politics. Bob Corker and Jeff Flake throwing hammers at the president, and the president throwing hammers back. You must enjoy this, sitting on the other side of the aisle, but it does
Absolutely not. That's just a simple, basic point I think is important for folks to hear is I take no joy in this at all.
Well, this is very dismaying to me. I had Jeff Flake on my MSNBC show this summer, and let me play for you a little, and he's a friend of mine. I've campaigned for him. Here's Jeff Flake with me this summer, cut number 6. You are underwater. Your poll numbers say 20%. Are you in this for the whole duration? Are you sure you're going to run into this headwind?
Oh, of course I am. Polls in the off years don't mean that much. I think 2 years ago, John McCain had very similar numbers. But it's going to be a tough race, no doubt, both in the primary and the general. We expected that, and we'll be prepared for it.
Senator Coons, it's been the worst kept secret in D.C. for a long time that Senator Flake was in trouble against a very marginal candidate, Kelly Ward. She's not going to be our nominee. She's off the map, marginal. But why can't people ever just answer questions honestly in D.C.?
Well, I think part of what you were hearing there is what is part of what has driven Senator Flake to make a strong public announcement yesterday, which is the restrictions of campaigning, of trying to continue to raise money constantly, of trying to rally your supporters by telling them that the current bad poll isn't the whole answer. You've still got hope things will turn around. You're still confident you're going to win. Campaigning is an enormous distraction from governing. And what I'm eager to see now is what will Senator Flake and Senator Corker, I serve with both of them on the Foreign Relations Committee, what will they be willing and able to do in the next 12 months, next 14 months, to try and secure our country's future and to try and work together to face some of the very real national security threats that are looming in front of us. I
want to talk to you about Iran, but while I've got you, since you're on foreign relations, Senator Corker has been throwing hammers at President Trump. You have a business meeting tomorrow. I think you have 16 nominees for ambassadors, which he's had a hold on. If you really are worried about World War III, do you not staff the ambassadorial posts across the United States? And I've been really hitting on the chairman because that's not the way you act. If you're really worried about World War III, you get people into their posts.
That's right. We don't have – now, I haven't reviewed the business meeting agenda. We might have one on there, but I was not aware of our having a nominee for Assistant Secretary for East Asia or for Ambassador to South Korea. As recently as last week, I didn't believe we had a nominee for any of those. For the committee to be holding nominees who are ready, who've gone through a confirmation hearing and are ready to go for a vote, that is historically a way that senators, as a sort of desperate last measure, get the attention of an administration. I remember in my first year noticing that Senator Chuck Grassley was getting a lot of attention from the then Obama administration by holding up nominees for the Department of Justice. It is even less common for it to be from a senator of your own party. And I know that Chairman Corker, who early on was a very strong supporter of the Rex Tillerson and his nomination for Secretary of State, has tried very hard to work with Secretary Tillerson and to support President Trump's initiatives in foreign policy. He's just deeply frustrated. It is my hope that at this business meeting and in the weeks ahead, we will move forward on filling vacant ambassador posts. As I've visited other countries where we didn't have an ambassador, it really hurts our ability to work with our allies, to confront our adversaries, and to engage with the country where we don't have a permanent ambassador. Many of these folks who are being held are career Foreign Service officers, not political appointees. These aren't big donors to the Trump campaign. And I think it's important that we get back to the business of filling vacant positions. Yeah,
there are 15 nominees tomorrow on the business meeting for Haiti, Netherlands, India, Djibouti, Germany, Vietnam. Indeed, the nominee for Niger has been on a hold because of Senator Corker's spat with President Trump. And I think a lot of Americans are just disgusted with your institution, Senator. I think they think the Senate is the source of all paralysis. And I'm not a Bannonite, right? I'm kind of a center-right guy, but I do think the Senate's broken.
And I'm concerned, Hugh, that it's going to get more broken because, frankly, I'm anxious about the 2018 elections. As I look at it now, what I think is most likely to happen is that centrist Democrats who are willing to work across the aisle, whose economic views and whose policy views are more in the middle of our caucus, are facing very tough re-elects, and Republicans who are willing to work across the aisle, who are willing to craft solutions on things like immigration reform, like Senator Flake or Senator McCain, or those who are more internationalists like Senator Corker, are going to be replaced by folks handpicked and supported by Steve Bannon, who have a more narrow nationalist or even nativist view. I'm concerned about what may happen with Senator Roy Moore if he should be elected. What kind of contributions he'll make to the chamber. I think Mitch McConnell, the majority leader here in the Senate, is going to have a greater and greater challenge corralling the votes needed for the Republican legislative agenda to move forward. The positive thing that might come from that is that we are then forced to work together in trying to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, and now in trying to make good on a long-standing promise to do broad tax reform. The Republican majority may well have to abandon a Republican-only path towards that. Historically, I think we've seen that when only one party legislates, when legislation isn't subjected to the rigors of trying to win over at least a half dozen of the other side, it's not as strong. The filibuster rule is not in the Constitution, but I do think it has strengthened the institution of the Senate.
I don't want the legislative filibuster to go away, but I do believe this personal hold. Al Franken putting a hold on David Strauss, and I don't expect you to comment on this, Senator, but the man is a brilliant jurist. He's on the Minnesota Supreme Court. He is the grandson of 2 Holocaust survivors, and Al Franken won't let him have a vote. Something's wrong with the Senate. Let's talk about 2 big deals, Iran and China. Yesterday, China made Xi Jinping basically Mao. He is now an autocrat. That is not good for us. That is a backward step for China. What do you make of what happened yesterday in Beijing?
I think all roads towards addressing our security challenge with North Korea, towards finding the next deal to constrain Iran and Iran's nuclear ambitions and aggressions are now going to run through Beijing. Xi Jinping has masterfully consolidated power in a way that makes it clearer than ever that we have 2 major adversaries in the world, China and Russia, who have competing models. These are not open societies. These are not democratic societies. They do not tolerate free press, human rights, and dissent internally. And Xi Jinping is now going to leave his mark on an ascendant country that is boldly saying in his remarks that they intend to be a superpower. Gone are the days of a sort of quiet, we're just trying to develop, this is just a regional concern. They are clearly intending to step forward and challenge us on the global stage. Hopefully, in the years ahead, we can find a way that it is more in their interest than not to join the rules-based world order that we've dedicated 7 decades to building and that has made the United States more secure and more prosperous. But this is going to be difficult.
Well, that rule-based order will require that the 7th Fleet be there and that we build the Navy to 350 ships. And unfortunately, the sequester is stopping that. Are you one of the Democrats willing to step up and say we've got to get rid of the sequester on the DOD?
We need a deal that addresses sequester. It has constrained our ability to invest domestically in education and healthcare and infrastructure and to spend to meet our national security needs. It's going to end up being part of a great big messy package at the end of the year that'll have a lot of other details to it. I have supported increased defense spending, but I want us to increase our investment here domestically as well.
But that, again, our number one challenge